It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter if you have a day job. It doesn't matter what effing inflation are. I want to go out and make money, do what I love, set it aside, and create tax-free money. Can we do that?
Meet Mark Kohler. He is a CPA,
attorney, and best-selling author
who is giving life-changing tax strategies
that your CPA isn't telling you.
If I'm going to be a business owner, I got to know the numbers. I felt accounting was the language of business. The person at the table that knows the numbers is in control of the checkbook and the decisions. To succeed at being an entrepreneur, I think it's critical that
Welcome to another episode of Unlock Your Potential. This is Jeff Lerner, your host, back with you again, having amazing conversations with amazing human beings. Today, we are joined by Mark Kohler. So excited to have him on the show. Mark is a founding and senior partner at KKOS Lawyers, specializes in tax, legal, wealth, estate, asset protection. Basically, he's one of those really smart, highly informed people that you really want to have in your corner in the world, especially if you like getting to keep the money you make and protect it. Anyways, he's known not just for his professional work, he's a YouTube personality, best-selling author, national speaker, and he's really committed to helping his clients achieve their American dream, and I think especially really get to keep and the American dream, my audience, you guys know that that's a charged term for me, so I'm excited to dig into that. You know what? Screw the bio. Mark, welcome to the show.
Okay, well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate
I'm going to say stuff about you. I'd rather just talk to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Podcast. Actually, that's one thing I want to make sure the audience knows. They can go access more of you there.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Of course, so glad to have you here. I just want to dive in because, gosh, as I was, digging into your content and getting to know you better, I feel like this is all such sensitive stuff. So I'm curious. One thing, here's where I want to start. I was looking at your website, and I'm like, oh, I want to start there if we could. One of the things on your website, it says, is you're talking about, you actually help people that are in the tax advisory profession. Your terminology is you help them go beyond compliance and embrace advisory services. And the reason that jumped out at me was like, oh, I totally want to talk about this because I've had this pretty consistent frustration, and I actually have a great CPA now, but it took, hopping through a few of them to find someone who actually can give me advice. Like, I feel like most accountants, every entrepreneur, every business owner goes in with the basic same set of questions, which is like, what can I do to optimize, my financial position, minimize taxes in a legitimate way, help me understand where the lines are. We all have the same set of questions. And so it's always kind of baffled me. How is there a profession that is, meant to be the expert, the knowledge base on a certain subject, that the vast majority of people in that profession seem frustratingly unable to answer the basic questions that everybody accessing that profession has? Like, why aren't they trained from day one on how to give advice as opposed to just like how to fill out tax returns and properly categorize expenses and such? Maybe you have some thoughts.
Well, are you talking about doctors? Are you talking about, it's very common, I think, in technical professions that people go into that, whether it's a doctor, an engineer, or an accountant, or an architect, and they love the technical nature of what they're learning, but then there are not classes or ways for them to change their entire personality so that they are better communicators. And so it's a struggle. So many Americans and small business owners, investors are frustrated with the accounting industry. They want an advisor that can give them incredible insights or strategies that are tailored to their facts and circumstances, and have a conversation where they're on the same side of the table. They don't feel like they're talking to an IRS police officer. They're talking to someone that really wants to help them succeed. And it's a big challenge. And that's why people just give up and go do their own taxes on TurboTax and try to figure it out on their way, on their own path. So it's really, really frustrating. And I think accountants on the flip side, they're frustrated too. They want clients that are willing to pay for advice, willing to pay for advisory services, but they think that just comes with the tax return. It doesn't. Compliance, doing the actual tax return or doing the bookkeeping, is separate from consulting. And I'm trying to bring both of those communities together in a more advantageous way, helping advisors or accountants know how to become an advisor, whether they're an enrolled agent, a CPA, a CFP, an attorney, and then helping educate business owners to ask the right questions. Be willing to pay for that service. And it doesn't have to be overly expensive either. So I'm trying to be a matchmaker. I think it's a great opportunity for people to get together and move the needle, and it's happening, just not as fast as I'd like.
So thank you. I mean, I'll just say thank you for validating my experience. It really is kind of crazy to me. And actually, I appreciate that you expanded the scope. I mean, it's a professional services matter, right? You know, to be able to, and frankly, it's actually interesting. It's as an entrepreneur, it's almost like it's a marketing matter. You know, as entrepreneurs, we're always trying to put ourselves in the mind of our prospect and care about what they care about and ask about what they ask or answer what it is they want to know. And you know, with advertising copy, the better you can speak to the psychography of the person on the other side, the more, you know, traction you get with your offer. And so, yeah, it has always confounded me that professional services providers don't go into every interaction with a customer essentially saying, how do I maximize my value to the customer? Which is pretty easy if you just start with what's important to them. But, you know, to your point, they tend to operate more in those weeds sometimes. And maybe it's just a contextual thing that it's like, hey, I spent 20 years mastering this craft. And so I have mentally associated the value, my value as a service provider with my technical mastery of this craft. And my ability to show you everything I know, which is usually not what the client's actually that interested in.
Well, it depends on what the client wants, but there's a lot of contributing factors. There's personality traits of both the accountant and the business owner, but a lot of accountants don't know how to bill for this. They haven't created engagement letters and a relationship with expectations. When they sit down with the business owner and say, hey, do you just want me to prepare your tax return or do you want advice? If they go, no, I just prepare my tax return. Okay. Some business owners are that way. They don't want to have a conversation for whatever crazy reason, in my opinion. But the accountant needs to bring a service package, an engagement letter, a relationship with expectations that can result in the process happening.
Yeah.
And that's why if business owners are asking for that, you say you have a good CPA now. That's awesome. You should be meeting with them quarterly. You should be having an important year-end tax planning session. What am I writing off? What am I not? Am I going to be doing a Roth conversion? Am I putting my spouse on payroll? Am I putting my kids on payroll? What should I be doing with my HSA? What should I be doing with my 401k? All these questions. I mean, I've got 10, 20 things that are in a year-end tax planning consultation. And luckily enough, you have a CPA that's reaching out to you, making that appointment happen, charging you for that appointment, and saving you 10 to 20 times the cost of that appointment in tax savings. And that's what a good accountant should be doing, whether they're a CPA or not. There's terrible CPAs out there. There's great CPAs. There's wonderful enrolled agents. There's terrible enrolled agents. Tax lawyers, the same. So we as consumers have to ask for that and know that we can receive it and expect it. And if we're not getting it, we go out into our network and find the right tax pros and the right advisors that can deliver on that.
Yeah, that's interesting. You point out a lot of it is structural. You know, it's like what was the defined nature of the relationship? What are the defined sort of transactional, you know, elements of the relationship? And you're right. If there's nothing built into the definition of a relationship that's, you know, maybe I'll call it more qualitative, of like just a guy giving a guy advice and having some monetary incentive to do it, then it stands to reason it won't exist. especially when you're talking about something that so effectively is transactional as accounting, at least on the surface. So, okay, makes sense. Thank you. I'm a little less vexed perhaps than I might otherwise be. Doctors, that's a whole other podcast to work on that profession. How did you kind of become this crusader of like, let's, I don't know what word you'd use, but to me, it feels like you're making accounting more holistic almost. But how'd you get into that?
You bet. Well, how I got into accounting, how I got into being a tax lawyer and building a tax law firm and a trust company over the last 20 years is one topic. Your first question of how did I become a crusader for the industry and when did I transition to helping other professionals? That is evolved. And in the last 2 years is when that mission of mine became so important and part of my life's calling. 3 years ago, we had a 4-year wait for business owners to get into our accounting firm. They knew we knew great strategies. They wanted to hear them. They wanted to have a conversation, but we had a huge bottleneck. I had partners that were more traditional in the accounting practice methodology. And I felt like I wasn't making an impact and actually frustrating people. I'm out on the airwaves talking about strategy and they're like, great, let's make an appointment. Sorry, we don't have the capacity or the procedures that I think needed to be in place. So I stepped away from the accounting firm. I said, guys, you go off into the sunset, work your magic the way the accounting firm industry you think it should happen. And I'm going to go out and start my Main Street Tax Pro certification. And I'm going to start creating an advisory program with strategies and modules and weekly training and a tribe and a community and a platform with the procedures and the business training for professionals to create an advisory practice. I cracked the code. It took me 15 years to figure out how to do this. And there are so many accountants that are burned out or frustrated. And I just knew that I could impact 1,000 clients by affecting one professional rather than going out and just doing consumer to consumer training. I wanted to help the professionals and their following. And it's just been a huge response and the community is blowing up and we're having a great time. And so many people that felt isolated as tax professionals now feel like they have a platform and a way to do it. So it's been really
the last 2 years, you've essentially been servicing the service providers to help them expand their practice and address this area. And that's it. You're not actually doing any tax returns anymore.
Well, I still had a round of tax returns. I still do some select clients and family members and things like that. But right, we're not preparing returns from a compliance standpoint. Now in our law firm, we're still helping thousands of clients set up the proper entities. We have our trust company now with over $2 billion in assets, helping clients self-direct. I'm still teaching business owners. I'm going to workshops and platforms. But when they say, I need that tax advisor to meet with, like that CPA you found, is providing advisory services on a monthly and quarterly basis. When people are looking for that, I now have created a network. And so when I speak to a business group, I can send them to the network where I've got just a website with 200, 300, 400 advisors around the country, and you can interview them, find one local or not, young or old, male or female, speak Spanish or not, no crypto or not, no real estate or not. You can find that perfect advisor for you, but they speak Mark Kohler, and they're going to be active and engaged in a relationship with you. So that's the plan we've implemented, and it seems to be working.
Very cool. Okay, so I'm going to summarize your arc here, and you tell me if I'm on, and then I'll tell you why I'm doing so. So you obviously were born, you existed, you learned some stuff. You decided to somehow or other ended up in this arena. You did that for, like you said, 15 years to, in your words, crack the code, which basically is you figured out a way to do something that was like disruptive or innovative within a fairly staid category of, accounting and tax and law, tax law, right? And then you felt a calling to say, okay, I think that maybe this was for some higher purpose. Maybe it wasn't just because I meant to apply this these methods with my clients, maybe I meant to create a ripple, right? And so in that sense, we might say you found maybe a higher purpose or a deeper meaning in what you were doing. And then that evolved from a business into more of, I use the term crusade. You didn't argue with it, so we'll keep it. And now here you are. Did I get it?
You filled in a lot of blanks there that I just fell into this. No. And I know my higher purpose. I'm just finding a better way of delivering it.
Okay.
And so, no, I always wanted to be in entrepreneurship and small business. I was always a kid with the lemonade stand. I felt accounting was the language of business. Like, if I'm going to be a business owner, I got to know the numbers. The person at the table that knows the numbers is in control of the checkbook and the decisions. And so I went on to an accounting program, not wanting to be an accountant, but wanting to be a business owner that's successful. And then I went on to law school because I realized, if I am a tax lawyer, I can do everything an accountant can do and a lawyer, and unlock an incredible amount of potential as a tax lawyer to help small business owners. And then I went on a crusade to help small business owners. I've written 5 books now. I've had millions and millions of downloads on my YouTube channel and on our podcast, helping small business owners. But this next phase has been helping the professionals help their clients as well. And it's allowing me to have a bigger reach on my quest to help the average American build their American dream. And so maybe I stated a little differently, but it's been a 25-year path. I just had an accounting firm for 15 years in the mix of that and figured out how to build a proper accounting firm. But it's been 25 years of this tax and legal industry, just enjoying the ride.
So the reason I asked the question the way I did, and the audience likely caught it, they're probably, most of them are pretty familiar with me at this point. We have this sort of like, it was Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey, the sort of archetypal narrative that we tend to espouse on this show. This show started as a research project where I would basically talk to successful people of outlier success in different arenas. And I was really searching for commonalities, almost like the algorithm of outlier success for individuals. And what are the things about outlier success that are maybe less obvious? And you find a lot of themes that have become consistent throughout this show. And so that's what I was attempting to summarize in a sense, is like, the people that really reach this station, let's just call it, there's aspects of actually listening to their heart, actually listening to what it is they were called to do in this world, actually understanding who they are and wanting to constantly pull that into what they're doing and avoid this, what's so common, this dissonance between a personal life and a professional life, that is statistically the norm in the modern world. That's why you have such high job dissatisfaction. You have such high, the number one statement on the deathbed is, I lived a life of someone else's expectations rather than listening to truly who I was. Like, these are big themes, right? And it's the people that bring those themes into their work and ultimately are trying to transcend just ones and zeros and actually do something that matters in the world and aligns with who they are. I mean, this is the Japanese ikigai philosophy, right? What am I good at? What can I get paid to do? What does the world actually need? And what do I enjoy? And where all that converges, those are the rare few that I call onto the show and say, tell me how success works. And it always comports to those themes. So that's why I stated your narrative the way I did, because you seem like a really beautiful illustration in, of all things, the tax profession, which is like, maybe not something that one would associate with a certain, evangelical spirit. So it's super cool. It's super cool. And I'm so glad we're there. And I hope that the audience is taking my point here, which is that it doesn't matter what category you're in. There's a version of you that aligns with a needed innovation in that category to go do something as unique as you are. There's only one Mark Kohler. There's a million accountants, there's only one Mark Kohler because you've made your stand within that category. And so anyway, that's what I'm trying to get to. So now I want to roll the clock back and try to figure out, of all the millions of accountants in the world, why were you the one to do this? What made you not the accountant, but just the human? So can you give me a little bit of your backstory of where in your life did you develop this sort of entrepreneurial, adventurous spirit? How did it come to be? How was it nurtured? And how have you protected it from getting diminished by the world?
Well, the big debate is in a lot of these types of questions or analysis is nature versus nurture. I think a lot of people are born, most entrepreneurs are born with that approach or mentality. Some people are forced to become entrepreneurs, but they don't really enjoy it, and they have a hard time excelling at it because deep down they don't want to be in that space. But I was born an entrepreneur. Like I said, I was immediately drawn to setting up a lemonade stand and trying to sell a product or service. And so when I went off to college, I already had a couple small businesses. I opened a janitorial business and window cleaning and carpet cleaning while I went through undergrad. I worked my butt off as a small business owner with employees to get through college. And so that entrepreneurial spirit has been a part of me from the beginning.
Okay.
And so to succeed at being an entrepreneur, I think it's critical that understanding of accounting and books and financial statements and making decisions that have a long-term impact of a business they're really based on numbers. And being able to do a financial analysis of a business and as a business owner is absolutely critical. And so that's kind of how it started, and it's evolved in that way. I like having in a law firm. I like having an accounting firm and our trust company and other businesses, own multiple businesses. And so how I protect that, I don't know. I'm just honored.
How did you protect it when you were younger? How did you keep the forces at bay that say, no, keep your feet on the ground, think smaller, don't be such a renegade, just, get the job, get the degree, do the thing, trade the time for the money. As long as it's a certain hourly, you're going to, hold on for 40 years and you'll be fine. Like, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. There's like guys like us that are like, screw all that. I want to do something. I don't know if it's bigger or more true to myself or that I feel more passionate about, but most people succumbed and you didn't. So what, how'd you?
Well, and I don't know, for those that are listening here, it's not like one's good or bad. Like, how did I not succumb to that evil? I'm not saying that. I mean, some people, corporate America and being an entrepreneur, meaning working in a company as an employee, it is very rewarding, very powerful for some. And for others, they feel stifled there. I honor whatever path someone chooses in that process. Now, I can tell you where I can save you more taxes and where you can build more wealth in coupling those two together, or what the ramifications are going to be based on the path you choose. But I probably got those arguments when I was in college more than in high school. So when in college, people were taking jobs or positions in a W-2 type nature. Right. And I felt like I could always make more money or have more freedom and flexibility by venturing on my own path as an entrepreneur. So I didn't feel like I had to dissuade others or fight against that temptation. I always felt it was more tempting to go the other way. And as an entrepreneur, you work harder too, I think, in a lot of ways. You're working around the clock.
So, but you just referenced the rewards, or at least the opportunity. More money, more time, more flexibility, more freedom. Well, actually, you didn't say time. You said more money, more freedom, more flexibility, time, and then you alluded you actually work harder. I mean, I bet if you went around a college campus and said, are you interested in more money, more freedom, and more flexibility, or less of those three things? You'd have 100% affirmative response, but you would not have 100% embrace of entrepreneurship, even though those are the rewards. So,
well, yeah.
So it all comes down to regulating the nervous system and managing the fear and the stress that is the price tag to achieve those rewards. So I think what I'm really looking at, and it is a nature versus nurture question, like how do what do you think empowers you to deal with the hardship that comes with the pursuit of those rewards and ultimately, choose the road. You chose the road less traveled. Like, what was predictive of that, if anything?
I don't know. But staying with this for a moment, and maybe this will help unpack it, I guess, is when I say, let's just stick with those three, I said, more money, freedom, and flexibility. Now, for me, freedom is being able to choose my customer, choose my employees, choose my surroundings, my culture, and the work I'm going to do. For others, that is not freedom. That is anxiety. Freedom for them is to be able to go to a job and at 5 o'clock, walk away. That's freedom for them.
Like I said, regulating the nervous system, right?
The definition of freedom, what's free to me is handcuffs to someone else. And what's handcuffs to me is freedom for them. So, and then when we talk about money, some would see benefits and a steady paycheck as money, as a better type of money. Me, I'm okay with the ups and downs of money and making big money one month and lower money one month the next. But I have a no glass ceiling. I could have some unlimited income, but I'm willing to take no benefits or lack of stability with income. Mm-hmm. And so that's another type of definition of what works for one person versus another. And then flexibility, I have flexibility to work any 18 hours a day I want. But I'm going to work 18 hours, because I've got big dreams and responsibilities that come with that other freedom and income potential. So to each their own. But if the question is, you want to save taxes, the question is, do you want to make more money or you want to have a bigger retirement? What path's going to get me? That's a whole other conversation, not what lifestyle I like. We can talk about Mark Kohler and what I like to do, but each person is going to choose their path based on, I guess, what they find to be rewarding every day.
Yeah, I think, sort of the subtext of my question is that I think there's a certain willful misinformation agenda in regard to those questions. What is going to make more money? What is going to produce a higher probability of a prosperous retirement? What is, and I think a lot of us have our grandparents' wisdom chirping in our ears about what the actual safer path is in the world. And I think that there's been an inversion in the last generation where risk tolerance and the ability to intelligently manage risk is now a better adaptive survival trait than the instinct to avoid risk. And sadly, the people that think they're playing it safe are actually on a road to nowhere, and that's just math. Wage growth versus inflation, for example. Everybody's getting poorer even when they get a raise, unless they're doing 15% a year in their investments. But even then, most employees aren't investing enough of their personal cash flow to even catch up with that much, even if they could get the returns. So anyway, I think that the math is flipped, but the conventional wisdom hasn't. And there's a lot of people that are being sold a bill of goods right now in a more traditional path. But I don't know, I wrote a whole book about it, so we can save it for that. Unless you have a strong viewpoint on what I just said, in which case I'd love to hear it. But
If you want to phrase it in a,
Okay.
like a question,
Yeah, I mean, do you think, okay, maybe here's another way to ask it. You have kids?
yes,
Okay.
4 children, all in their 20s.
Okay. What if they came to you like, Dad, I want the American dream. I want, while there's still enough years in my life and life in my years to actually enjoy the fruits of my labor, I want enough prosperity that I can have checked the box of basic security for myself and my family, and be able to pursue some of the more meaningful things in life again while I'm young enough to do it. What path should I take? Should I go get a job, or should I try to strike out on my own? What would you say?
Oh boy, it's going to depend on that kid and how they define that. One kid being able to have time after 5 o'clock and have weekends and I have one child that being an entrepreneur would be a disaster. It doesn't fit their mindset. It doesn't fit their, what they see as a path to happiness. Being an entrepreneur does not make them happy. I have another kid, they're like, hell no, I'm not going to work for someone else. I've got a business opportunity plan. I'm going to go build that. So each child is different. The way you said that, they want to live their passions, live their dreams, have financial stability. Which path's better, entrepreneur or a day job? You can have both. Based on what you said they want, you could do it with both, either one.
What industry can someone get a day job in and actually have that outcome in the next 30 years?
Oh my gosh. Any. I
mean, I know
they could be a nurse, a dentist, or they could be work in corporate America. Any job that they're going to make 80 to 120 grand, which is, after 5 to 10 years after a college graduate, they should be in that range if you're going to go to college. So I'd have to ask, is this a college graduate? They could be a policeman, a fireman, an astronaut. I mean, entrepreneurism isn't the answer to it all. I'm sorry. What do you mean? Like, what job gives them financial stability and the ability to play after 5 o'clock and have a great weekend? Well, there's millions of jobs out there that do that. And that's perfect for some people. They love that.
Real quick, I want to let you know about my text message community. So I use text messages to provide unique value to my podcast listeners. These texts can just be random thoughts. It can be letting you be the first to know about an event I'm planning or some free training that I'm planning to host for the community. Just shoot me a text to get subscribed to the list. The number is 702-996-3926. Again, that number is 702-996-3926. Now let's get back to the podcast. Yeah, no, I love it. I'm asking sincere questions. I'm not trying to.
Yeah. No, I love it.
Answer. I have some perhaps more aggressive views, but.
Well, tell me what you would say. Like if
I look at, so I have a different vantage point, right? Like I run a platform where people come to me. My company Entre, we run a platform called Life Design, right? So it's like we'll teach you how to design your life, but unlike just the personal development space, we really take on the financial realities of not just the life I'd like, but actually how to pay for it, right? And so I have a pretty broad exposure to people in all kinds of career categories. I mean,
okay,
some that you just mentioned, and I have this perhaps extra cynical viewpoint that 98% of the workforce right now, depending on how much runway they have ahead of them, it's actually better to be older now because the problems have less time to compound. But that if you're under 50, and you're not in a very small slice of career categories, the economy is being so badly and systemically badly mismanaged that your $150,000 a year is not leading where you think it is. And that, in the next 10, 20 years.
Okay, is it about dollar amount or what you're doing? Because I have small business owners that make 150. So if I make 150, I'm screwed.
Yeah, I think small business, again, a lot of it's the ceiling, right? If you're a business owner and you're making 150, that's okay because you have the ability to outpace inflation in terms of income growth.
Yeah, but some don't. I've got business owners that are crappy at owning a business.
Evolve their business, but at least they theoretically have enough control. That's a possibility for them.
Well, and a guy that has a day job that's making 150 can have a side hustle, a side gig, a rental property.
Well, exactly. And that would be my argument, is that there's going to need to be some entrepreneurship in there.
Okay, so this is interesting. So your argument is that if you're not an entrepreneur or have a small business on the side, either you're a full-time entrepreneur, have a side hustle or side gig, and you're going to put rental property in there as a possibility too. If you don't have one of those three things and you just have a $400,000 a year corporate America W-2, you're...
Well, $400K, if you're living with discipline, certain conditions, a lot of it, we correlate. I mean, one of my favorite quotes is that wealth isn't a number, wealth is a ratio.
Okay.
So if your top line, if your numerator is 400 and your denominator is 100, then you're probably doing pretty well. But
yeah, some of my most successful and happy people, I've done my 10,000 consults. I get out and speak to thousands of people. Some are very happy with the W-2. They're out of debt. They have their weekends and evenings. They're pleased. They're paying off their home. Follow the Dave Ramsey crowd. You see them every day, right?
Do you think that holds looking forward, not just backwards?
Well, it's what works for them. If they...
that's today, in the economic reality of today, do you think the conditions have changed where the principles have to change too?
And the question is that if I'm out of debt, I've got a stable job, I'm funding my retirement, my home is paid off, I'm looking backward, in your opinion?
No, I'm saying that you're saying you have these clients that this is their present state based on the last 10, 20, 30 years of working life. Does that map to the next 10, 20, 30 years of working life? Or has the underlying reality shifted? I believe it has.
And the underlying reality is that...
I think we've passed a tipping point on... I don't think that there's the political will to actually pull back inflation. I think that instead the political will is to continue to misrepresent what inflation actually is. There's manipulation of statistics because of people actually, they don't include food and energy. And if they did, everybody would go, oh my gosh, 5 years from now, I'm not going to be able to afford those things. Even on my $100,000 a year, unless I move to central Kansas and get my cost of living down to 40. I just think there are tectonic forces in the world now that are terrifying to talk about, and we'd rather stay plugged into the matrix, but math.
So what do we do? You're saying all is lost if this is...
No, I'm saying everybody needs to become entrepreneurial and actually figure out how they're going to meaningfully increase their income by probably at least 10 to 12% a year compounding, or else they're falling behind.
And unless their wages are... Unless they have a W-2 over a certain amount, you're okay.
Yeah, relative to their cost of living. Yeah. So we have a concept called the awesome life number that basically says you should be, to get out of what we call the income phase, which is, for us, this is an extreme way to say it because it sounds kind of heartless, but life really begins once you're not stressed about money, or once you're out of the income phase. But to get out of it, you have to have an income that's 5 times greater than your cost of living.
Okay, so you when someone comes in the door, you're saying, what's your cost of living based on where you want to live?
Right.
And you need to make X.
Or where you have to live because of what you currently do for a living, which is a dictate sometimes.
Right. And then, so if my cost of living is $50,000 a year for housing, food, and transportation, I need to be making $250,000 a year.
Yeah. It's needs, wants, and preferences, right? It's housing, food, transportation, and, I would call them, important non-essentials, maybe like cell phone. And, if you have a marriage that is not going to be okay without a certain number of date nights and eating out, or you gotta, do the holistic math. But yeah, whatever that number is, if it's 50, then yeah, you need to make 250.
Okay. And to
my
not get it,
basic rationale is then you can invest twice what you spend. So if you live on 20%, you can invest 40%, and the other 40 is going to go to tax in that tax bracket.
so in your example, 40% of people's gross wages go to taxes.
Yes. Now, I hope everybody gets some Mark Kohler in their lives, and there's a way to whittle that number down. But heuristically, yes, that's what we say.
Okay. All right.
And so, yeah, our sort of, terrifying premise is that most people that think they're okay really aren't. And entrepreneurialism, which I differentiate from entrepreneurship as a technicality, you got to get some of that in your life, and that the wiring of your nervous system being maybe averse to that, the world doesn't care if you're comfortable with it, because 20 years from now, you're still going to be subject to the math, whether it's comfortable or not. So we're kind of trying to rattle people into going, oh crap, maybe I should focus a little less on fun or distraction or browsing social media or whatever people do with their time, and a little more on figure out how to increase my income. Because if not for me, for my kids, this was all, I don't know. Now I'm feeling a little like I'm not doing a great job of interviewing you, but maybe should.
No. This is wonderful. So you're just saying that everybody needs to work more on the top line of making more money. I presume you'd also talk about the denominator of not spending as much, probably getting out of debt.
In our math, a penny saved is 5 pennies earned.
Okay. And so people are trying to make more money, spend less, and save more for retirement. And your catalyst to get
in a retirement, I should say. I mean, retirement was created in the 19th century as a political mechanism to get people off the street so they wouldn't revolt in Prussia, where the French Revolution was happening next door. So I personally am more inclined toward find work that fulfills you so that you get this retirement boogeyman out of your thought process. Because
so when I can't work anymore, what do I live on? Retirement.
If I did, you've invested well.
Well, investments are retirement. What do you define retirement as?
I don't like the word retirement.
Okay. You like what word? If I'm going to put money away for the future.
Legacy. I mean, we have what we call the 3 phases of legacy, and in the wealth phase, you're building for legacy.
So I put money in my legacy account or my rental property.
I personally don't have a retirement or legacy or whatever account myself, but
you don't have a legacy? Like, what are you going to live on? I guess you're going to work till the day you die.
Assets, but
you what?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I have cash flowing assets and
okay. So you have investments that give you cash flow that act as retirement. I mean, that if you don't like the retirement work.
I'm really not speaking so much to the financial concept of retirement, but to this idea, the part of the American dream has been this aggrandizement of this idea of getting to some phase of life that's all about you and essentially, uselessness. And I'm like, I just think as human beings, we're wired to be doing productive, fulfilling work. I mean, some people, even the word work has been hijacked. Even, look at what we've done to the word profession. Oh, my profession, that's the thing I do to trade time for money. Well, that's not what the word profession. I mean, the profession is sort of...
You're wanting to redefine the dictionary on about 15 different levels to make... You don't like retirement,
Well, yeah, because that's what the
professions. Huh?
That's what the world has done. I mean, the word profession historically meant to stand for something.
But what's it stand for now?
Trading time for money in a career category.
Okay. So you don't trade time for money in your category?
If I do, it would be a job. It wouldn't be my profession of some of those.
So what do you call what you... what do you call that you do when you trade time or education for money? You call that your...
I call it entrepreneurship.
Okay, today I'm doing entrepreneurship. I'm trading time for money.
I would call it value creation is what I call it today. And that actually gets to the heart of what I'm saying is like, why would we be so excited to reach a point in our life where we stop creating value?
No, but I want the freedom to create value at my pace, at the time of day I want, in this place I want to. And if you don't want to call it having retirement funds, or you don't want to call it assets or investments that are going to create that freedom, I've got to build these buckets. I want to pay less in taxes. I'm not paying 40%. So I'm going to build Roth accounts that I can invest in assets that create cash flow that I don't pay taxes on. Now, is that okay with you, or you don't like that?
No, that sounds great. The way,
So I want to build an account and invest in assets I love. Like you love real estate, right?
But what am I doing in the meantime to do that? Like this retirement for me was a way to get an entire society to buy into this false delayed gratification trade. They're like, just endure whatever I have to endure for 40 years so I can get to this pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. I love what you just said. I just don't want to wait till I'm 65 to do it.
Yeah. I mean, so you define retirement as an age?
No, I define retirement is a meme. It's a mimetic concept that society has an idea of. That's more multifaceted than just like a dictionary definition. And that concept has basically been used to indoctrinate and enslave the vast majority of people into doing work that statistics show they don't enjoy for a payoff that mathematics shows isn't likely to come anyways in the world.
Huh. Okay. Well, okay. Yeah, I'm going to just be honest. I don't care about inflation. I don't care what the government's doing at the CIA. I don't care how the government's been trying to brainwash people. I want to make effing money, put it away, create cash flow, and pay the least amount of taxes on it. I don't know what you effing define it as, except that I don't give a shit what the government's been doing behind the scenes. I want to freaking make money. I'm going to do what I love, and I'm going to do it till the day I die. But I got to have enough money set over here in a tax-preferred, free way. So when I'm ready, I'm not paying taxes out my butt. So that's how I kind of operate. And I don't think there's some big conspiracy. I don't think someone's trying to brainwash me at the government. They can do whatever the F they want. I control my own economy. I control what I'm going to do. And I'm going to make some freaking money. I'm going to pay the least amount of tax. I'm going to put it in a Roth account. I'm going to put it in real estate. I'm going to put it in oil and gas. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to put it there. And I'm going to make freaking money and do what I love. Call it a profession. Call it whatever the hell you want. I don't care. I'm making freaking money. And I don't want to get caught up on semantics.
Well,
That's my interview.
I'm with you on, we can set aside the semantics. I love that outburst.
Well,
we are so aligned.
Okay, semantics matter. If you're going to give it weird names, people aren't going to connect. They don't get it. They don't got it. It's like I'm trying to tell them that they're dumbasses. I'm not. Make money at your day job. Have a side hustle. Make money at your day job. Have rental real estate. I don't give a shit what you call it. I'm like, I want to go out and make money, do what I love, set it aside, and create tax-free money. Can we do that?
Everything you just described is not most people's orientation.
You're right. So I'm out on rooftops telling everybody. That's why we're talking.
Cool.
Let's do it. Let's go. Okay, so people, you want to know what your best tax strategies are for year end?
Tell us how to
know the best ways to make cash flow. Let's go there. I've done 15,000 consultations and wrote thousands of words and blog articles without AI. I can tell you, but that's how we work. Let's go for it.
Okay, so let's speak to the average person who's maybe, I don't know if these are actual averages, but let's say somebody's making $85,000 a year. They're able to scrimp, 5 or 10K a year of surplus somehow. What is your advice to that person to, as quickly as possible, get to the lifestyle that you just described?
They may already be living it. I don't know. I've got to ask, okay, are you in debt? How much do you have in your savings account? Call it retirement, whatever the hell. What are you doing for fun? Are you happy with your life? Do you like your job? What's your occupation trajectory? Are you married? Are you single? Do you have kids? Do you not have kids? Now we're talking about an hour consultation where I peel apart their life, find out what their pain points are. And I've got people that make it, school teachers that make 60 grand a year, and they're living a dream. I would love to live their life stress-free. They have money set aside for the future. They love what they're doing. They're a school teacher and they're making great money and they're not in debt. I've got a doctor. I got a plastic surgeon making 450 grand a year, packing a lunch to work because he's in student debt up to his eyeballs. He hates what he's doing. He's an entrepreneur. He's making way too much money living month to month. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter if you have a day job. It doesn't matter what effing inflation are. We're going to talk about your lifestyle, your desires, your wants, and are you kicking ass or you're getting beat up? And it doesn't matter what the economy is doing to you or brainwashing you.
And you're training other tax professionals to have the conversations and the consults that you just described with people.
Yes.
That is amazing.
Yes.
Like I at this point, if I'm listening, I'm like, I gotta give me one of those tax professionals. So how would they go get access to your network of people that would have that conversation with them? Which, by the way, however we got to this point in the conversation, we are so aligned, and I'm so excited to tell the audience how they can go find a professional.
Well, maybe as you edit this down, you delete the last 30 minutes, me trying to figure out what you're trying to ask or say or do. Forgive me, Jeff.
No, my audience is used to
I don't think they're going to make it through the first 30. So if you want to go straight to my rants after you ask a couple of questions, if whatever I'm saying is resonating with you, start drinking my freaking Kool-Aid. Find a tax or legal advisor that you can speak English with. Listen to my podcast. Go to my YouTube. Subscribe. Listen. Download. Binge. Whatever the hell. When you're ready to talk to a tax advisor that's going to hold you accountable and have these conversations, go to markjkohler.com. Go to my tax advisor network. Start doing discovery calls. Start interviewing. Start finding a tax advisor that speaks your language. And start being willing to make hard decisions. And it doesn't mean you have to quit your job. It doesn't mean you have to start a small business. We're going to start implementing strategies that are specific to you, your goals, your pain points, and what you need to do. And it's no one's fault. It's not the government's fault. It's about you getting your ass in line with what you want to accomplish.
I love it. markjkohler.com. Well, obviously, we'll put the links in the show notes in the description. Yeah, so it's funny. Like we've unlocked something that we share in common, which is this like passion to disrupt conventional thinking. And semantics may have been the awkward crowbar that pried open our enthusiasm here, but like that's really what I'm trying to do with this show is challenge these conventional narratives that people get trapped in their whole life. And I actually don't think it's a government conspiracy at all. I think it's a diffuse, I don't know if it's a conspiracy or just a reality of the human psyche where we default to lowest common denominator thinking because it feels safe. But it isn't when you push your time horizon out further than the next 5 minutes. So thank you. Okay, so markjkohler.com, they can get that. Before we were talking, you mentioned you have an event coming up?
So we do an event every 6 months called Tax and Legal 360. And for 3 days, we bring in 20 speakers, 3 days of events, networking, socials, and main stage events where business owners can collaborate and meet other advisors and advisors can meet business owners. And we talk about real strategies that move the needle. Taxandlegal360.com will be the first week in December in Phoenix, and then next June in Dallas. And we do it every 6 months, and it's about living that dream and learning the tools and the strategies that'll get you there.
And this is for who? For anybody?
Any business owner, tax advisor, accountant, CPA, enrolled agent, CFP, lawyer, anybody that wants to learn about saving taxes and building wealth, estate planning, asset protection. It's Tax and Legal 360. We're going to take a full look at every angle.
Is it just people in those service categories, or would it be like anybody that really wants to become informed?
If you own a rental property, if you own a small business, if you are an accountant, if you are a CPA, if you're an enrolled agent, if you are an attorney, a doctor, an engineer, anybody that wants to make money and not pay taxes and build your wealth and save from a potential lawsuit and have asset protection and get out of debt and learn which retirement accounts work. If any of those words resonated with any of you, come to the freaking conference and I promise you will save you your cost of coming in taxes, or I'll give you your money back. You're going to have to talk to me and I'm going to find out what classes you went to, and I'm going to find out how the hell you didn't learn something that saved you taxes, and then I'll give you your money back. But I am so convinced it will be a life-changing experience, and no one's ever asked for their money back because they're blown away.
Tax and Legal 360. Plus, it's Phoenix in December. That's a great combination of time and destination. Mark, I've really enjoyed having you on this show, man. Thank you for...
Thank you so much. I know it took a while. You get to a couple thoughts or feelings that I'm passionate about, but thank you, Jeff, for having me. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work, and thank you for changing the dialogue out there with America, and hopefully we'll get more and more people having the lights go on here.
Well, ditto to you, man. Thanks for the work you're doing. I'm always excited to meet a fellow Crusader. And I guess with that note, we'll wrap and say to the audience what I always say, which is that even when fired up Mark Kohler's on the show, you, the audience, are the best part of the show. You're why we do it every single time, and I'm so glad we got this time together. We'll catch you next time.
If you loved that episode, then you're definitely gonna love this one. Check it out.
This is it. We're in a world now where it has never been easier to start a business on the one side, but at the same time, it has never been harder to stand out. People do not buy your products or your services, or even your ideas, as much as they buy your energy.